Episode 17, Living in Gratitude. Welcome to Reviving Your Soul, where Christians are finding the courage to embrace their faith in all aspects of their lives so they can stop being bored or overwhelmed and begin to live the life in fulfillment and in peace that God created them for. I'm your host, Vanna Johnson. Let's get started. Have you ever painstakingly searched for that perfect gift for someone, and then after you gave it to them, it was met with indifference or possibly not even acknowledged? It's especially disappointing when that happens and you knew without a doubt. You worked so hard and it was exactly what the receiver needed. Yeah, but then they may not have been able to see the value of that gift that you gave them right away. And even so, they could have said thank you, even if they didn't really get it. Couldn't they have? I have to admit that there was one gift from my husband, and let me tell you, he is a really great gift giver. But there was this one year that I was terribly guilty of doing just that. Years and years ago, he gave me a KitchenAid mixer for Christmas. You know, the heavy-duty stand-up mixer cut type with the nice metal bowl. They weren't really as popular way back then as they are now, and I really didn't understand the value of it. In fact, after I opened it and I can't even remember how I responded. I'm embarrassed to think about it. But I really just put it on a shelf and literally, I think I may have even put it in the basement and literally didn't take it out of the box until the next Christmas. I decided I wanted to make Christmas cookies and I thought that it might be good to try it for that. Oh my gosh, that turned out to be one of my favorite items of all time. But I shudder to think how heartbroken he must have been with my unenthusiastic response at the time that he gave it to me. We probably see this most when we give it a gift to a child. They have so much already anymore, but we get so much joy in giving them gifts and watching them unwrap the gifts that when we do give them something that we think is really special and they open it up and throw it off to the side and go to the next gift, our hearts sink just a little bit, don't they? Do you suppose that this is how God feels about us and our indifference to the gifts that He has given to us? Think about it for a minute. For the most part, we really have almost everything we need. Most of us have a nice home, we have clean clothes to wear, a decent job, convenient transportation. There's usually always food on our table of some sort or another. We have clean water, and even if it isn't always perfect, we have a good education, or we have the ability to get a good education anyway. We live in a free country where we can come and go as we please, and we can generally go wherever we want without fear for our own safety. There are millions of people around the world who do not enjoy these blessings that we take for granted and just simply don't even think about anymore. I don't know about you, but the last thing I want to do is give something to someone who doesn't appreciate it and simply acts like a spoiled brat when we do that. We can all think of a time when that's happened. But that's how we are, isn't it? We have all these amazing things in our life, but all we can focus on are the things that we don't have and the things that we really want next. Our closets are bursting with clothes. Our pantries are overflowing with food. And our shoe racks aren't even big enough for all those shoes we own. Well, is that maybe just me? Face it, most of us don't have enough room in our homes to store all of our stuff, and we actually have to get storage units to hold all of our extra stuff. It's kind of sad when you think about it. When was the last time you said thank you to God for all of the abundance in your life? I'm not talking about when someone physically hands you a gift, but when was the last time you expressed gratitude to God for all that you have? No wonder God is reluctant to give us the things we ask for sometimes. In 1 Thessalonians 5, verses 16 to 18, it says, "Always be joyful. Keep praying. No matter what happens, always be thankful, for this is God's will for you who belong to Jesus Christ." Notice how this doesn't say, when things are good, give thanks. It says always. This means that our joy, prayers, and thankfulness shouldn't ebb and flow depending on our mood, how well things are going, or how we feel. We need to make a conscious decision to do what God says. Another distinction to make is that it isn't telling us to thank God for everything that happens to us, but rather to thank Him in everything. That means that we don't thank Him for the bad things, but we can thank Him for His presence during those troubling times and for the good that He will accomplish through the difficulties. I was visiting with a friend of mine who always has a lot of wisdom to share the other day. This story in particular struck me. He was telling about a time many years ago when he was at seminary. He told how a professor there had shown like a 45-minute video to the class. The video was about prayer and just different people praying about different things. And after the video, he asked the class their opinion about the video. Student after student shared how much they really enjoyed the video, and they commented on the things that really struck them. They were telling about stories of people praying for help after natural disasters. Others were praying for peace. Others yet were praying for the homeless, and on and on. The professor then turned to my friend and said, "You've been uncharacteristically quiet. What do you think?" My friend replied that he didn't really like the video because not once in the 45 minutes that they went on talking about all these prayers did anyone, not one, share a prayer of gratitude. In 45 minutes, no one had anything to thank God for? How about you? Are you giving thanks for all that you have? Or are you taking it all for granted? When was the last time you simply said, "Thank you for this day, Lord"? There is a lot of talk about abundance and prosperity in the faith world today. There is also a lot of credence being given to the concept that we can manifest anything we want if we focus on it enough. I personally believe that we need to be careful with this thought process. I do believe that God wants us to have an amazing life, and I believe that He will provide for us beyond our wildest imagination. But I think He wants us to know that it comes from Him and not from our own effort. If all we focus on is the money, the power, the status, and everything else that we gain when we work towards those things, we think it's a result of our efforts and not God's. Pretty soon we get caught up in all of that stuff and we forget that He's there for us. As I've talked about in previous episodes, God encourages us to seek Him first, and then our desires will be given to us. When we try to do it on our own, we can succeed. We can have a good life, even a great life, for a while anyway. But after a time, it isn't enough. Because, you see, it isn't about those things that come to us with success by today's definition of success. It's those things that we accumulate. They are really the benefit, but not the goal. We can do it on our own, in our own way, or we can rely on Jesus and have it all. It can be a struggle sometimes. But then again, the challenges we encounter are there to help us to become a better person if we're willing to let them. I really love how Paul describes it in Philippians 4, verses 6 and 7. He says, "Don't worry about anything. Instead, pray about everything. Tell God what you need, and then thank Him for what He has done. If you do this, you will experience God's peace, which is far more wonderful than the human mind can understand. His peace will guard your hearts and minds as you live in Christ Jesus." So stop worrying about whatever it is that you don't have. Instead, pray about it. Give thanks for what you have. Ask God if it's truly His will for you to have it, and turn it over to Him. There truly is so much peace in knowing that you are doing what it is that you are called to do, and then trusting God to take care of the rest. You see, true peace is not found in positive thinking, in the absence of conflict, or in good feelings. It comes from knowing that God is in control. Our place in eternity is already set. The non-refundable deposit has already been made, so we can let go of the fear and anxiety of not knowing what is to come. Paul is a perfect example of someone who lived in this manner. He learned to get along with a little or a lot. He even talked about having learned the secret of living in every situation, whether it is with a full stomach or an empty stomach. The reason he could do this is because he was able to see life from God's point of view. He was focused on what he was supposed to do and not what he felt he should have. He had his priorities straight and was grateful for everything God had given him. Paul had detached himself from the non-essentials so that he could focus on the eternal. Often the desire for more or better possessions is really a longing to fill an empty space in our lives. What are you drawn to when you feel empty inside? How can you find true contentment? The answer does not lie in your wallet, your garage, your trophy case, your closet, the gym, or your refrigerator. As much as we all try to fill this longing in our heart for more with things, accolades, or even the feeling of doing good, they just won't last. Indeed, this longing will only be filled when we change our perspective, our priorities, and our source of power. It truly will only change when we focus on God and begin to seek Him in all aspects of our lives. I don't know about you, but I've got more than I will ever need. But I believe that God is much like I am as a parent. He, like us, wants to give the best. He wants us to have everything our hearts desires, but He wants us to appreciate what we already have before He gives us more. What do you need to thank Him for today? If you haven't already, I encourage you to begin praying a prayer of gratitude at the beginning of each day and let Him know what you're thankful for. You may be amazed at how beautiful life can be when you do so. I really believe that when we begin to live in sincere gratitude, our perspectives begin to change. We begin to love our lives, our work, and the people we encounter. If we choose to, we can even create a life that really matters. It's been my honor to spend this time with you today. Thank you so much for stopping by. If you know someone who could benefit from hearing this message, please share it with them. If you'd be willing to leave a comment on iTunes, I would really appreciate it. If you don't know how, let me know. I'd be happy to show you. So go. Live in gratitude for all that you have. It truly will revive your soul.